All right, so for incoming seniors, you need to start your college preparations ideally after you have done your AP tests, and late May, probably late May, and make your essay. Make sure that I have like 2 pieces of suggestion to make to you. Make all your essays evidence based. Yeah, many students simply just write the essay to show, um, I believe, I think, in my opinion. Okay, those essays tend to be terrible because no admission officers care about what you believe, what you think. They only want to care. They only care about what you have achieved. So that's why show evidence about your achievements. So that's why that's the cornerstone. Okay, achievements. That's the cornerstone of your essays. And also make your essays talk about you. And some of the essays will have the question something like, tell us about a person who has influenced you the most. Okay, influenced you the most. What? And then some of the students just got confused. Okay, so I'm going to talk about someone who has influenced me most. Then those students will just talk about that person who has influenced you. Okay, blah blah, Jonathan, 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 from the beginning to the end. And those students just forget those other words that are more important. What? Influenced you, influenced you. Those students just have forgotten those 2 words. Okay, and also the most important word in that question is you. It's not about any other people. So that's why that person who has influenced you the most is only a vessel for conveying the message about you. And so that's terrible thing for students to do. So this is the third version of the essay after the new topic has started. So let me just show you. It's a little bit long. Okay, let me just read it through very quickly. Hands grabbing blindly, I searched for solace and security. I dared not to look down. For 10 feet below me was the dismal sight of discolored plastics in the feculent water. I didn't want to fall in the canal again. Ahead, the red of a grandmother's shoes, passionate, unfaltering, and resolute, was vibrant against the grim mountains. Balancing the buckets of water as tall as her, grandmother moved steadily as she bore the wooden rod across her shoulders. No, I was going to make it this time, like a grandmother. I stood up, fixing my foot at the vertex of the curve and extending my arms to emulate the rod she bore. With each step, I grew emboldened, thrusting my momentum forward. Exhilaration rushed through my 3-foot-tall frame. At age 4, I figured it out. Every day, grandmother and I had to make the journey across the log that bridged the canal to reach our plot in the mountains, where we grew all our vegetables. She had raised me in a powerless village in China since I was a few months old, as my parents worked in the States to become financially stable. After joining my family in America at age 5, however, I discovered many more bridges awaiting me. My parents worked 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I was left to bridge the cultural gap. Okay, so let me just go back a little bit more. The last page, this one, okay? The student wrote, I was counting, 207 words to talk about grammar out of 650 words. You can imagine how dangerous that is. Okay, so let me just toss out this comment for now. Okay, now this next paragraph. My parents worked 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I was left to bridge the cultural gap. This sentence sounds so abrupt, it's not logically connected. And my parents work that many hours every week, So how is that possible? Then there is like a cultural gap that I have to bridge, So that's why it is a little bit weird. Let me move on. In the classroom, I examined every shelf and the crevice as I navigated new social mores. My mind ran unfettered, filling the silence at home by sounding out words from books and teaching myself English. Stacks of my original stories filled the drawers, overflowing with fanciful creations as I became enthralled by language and the craft of writing. As I probed my way through, I grew intellectually as I won essay contests regionally and nationally. Oh, that's good. I like that part. In music and art, I also learned to craft bridges across the financial obstacles. Throughout middle school and high school, teachers inquired about my private lessons. Upon learning I had done, they urged me to develop my talents with proper mentorship. But on my desk, the phone numbers remained untouched. I knew what was realistic for my family. Instead, I followed my intuition. So this paragraph, I really like it because this part inquired about my private lessons. This is kind of a soft uh, bragging, right? You can tell, if your music is not good, how can the teacher ask you about, hey, which private tutor did you follow? It doesn't make sense. So that's why this kind of a soft, bragging is very effective. And so from this paragraph and also from the last paragraph, these two, I learned something very important about the student's background, and I felt like there is some story to tell, but the student didn't tell precisely, didn't tell it all, which I want to dig more. That's what I felt when I was reading. Okay, move on to the next paragraph. As a child, I ravaged the music store rooms and its plethora of instruments. While transcribing songs on an old recorder, I hardly noticed that my newly garnered notoriety as the nosy and the rambunctious first grader. Instead, my mind churned with the discovery. Why do I create the same sound holding down two fingers when I hold down three, but I skip a hole? Unaware, I uncovered the workings of standing waves in open pipes. I was fascinated with the music and proceeded to learn piano at home on a notebook with the keys drawn in. Oh, that's so sad. In school, I finally dabbled with the violin and a real piano, now household favorites. Fingers fluttering restlessly, figured out hand finger positions, harmonics, double stops, articulations, and the tricky rhythms. I discovered I could interpret the music, telling narratives of the transient elation and the temptations of I don't know how to pronounce, and of the ambient trance-like state of reverie, I guess, by co-founding a string quintet in sixth grade and then playing first violin in the selective youth orchestra. I spanned the canal of financial limitations with a bridge of undaunted passion and steadfast curiosity. So up to this point, I have noticed the one word that has come up again and again, bridge. Did you notice that as well? Right? Did you notice? I know that you cannot like interact with me through the chat, but I can see your star. I noticed that 287. You probably can, tell me. Oh yeah, I noticed too. Okay, give me some feedback. Anyway, so in this case, I noticed something here, folks. The student literally wants to take advantage of the word bridge by telling her grandmother's story of going across the bridge in the village, in the remote village in China. So the problem is, wow, you have to take 207 words to tell that story for you to have the fancy opportunity to use the word bridge later on. Jeez, that's not very efficient. Okay, so that's why I totally disapprove this kind of a practice, And let's move on. In the art room, I navigated the stacks of construction paper and the paint brushes, amalgamating materials in unimagined forms for unprecedented uses. I unraveled the techniques of watercolor, oil pastels, and acrylic paint. a self-taught artist, I discovered that I could use my brush to capture a scene with all its vitality and embody the euphoria or tribulations of a fleeting moment. At 7, I carved magnificent sculptures from the wax packaging of my classmates' baby bell cheese snack. Students throughout the school collected and traded my artwork. In the corner of my parents' restaurant, I spent my days teaching myself to draw based on the Japanese woodwork prints on the walls. I stood by the door handing out portraits to beaming customers. My art became commissioned in a high school. Now standing in the gallery house as an emerging artist, I know I have paved my own bridge. Again, bridge, okay? By the way, everyone, this essay was not the students writing from scratch, okay, without talking to me. Before she wrote this version, she and I had already talked extensively regarding how to develop the ideas for the next version. So that's why many details I already discovered, such as the names of the music pieces, which she never thought about providing, and I told her to put in there. And why? Because the idea is very simple. What is the idea? Devil resides in details. You provided such details not because the admission officers care about, they don't care about the details, but the details you have provided make your essay sound authentic, sound real. That's the point, okay? So if you don't, even though the event or the facts are real, sometimes they sound fake without details. You get it, everyone? Give me some stars. Okay, cool. I can see you now. Okay, yeah, that's the point. That's the point. Okay, so that's why details are important. Here in this paragraph regarding painting, regarding painting, look at those details, such as like a commission in high school, such as like a restaurant. Let me see the restaurant. Yeah, the restaurant detail I digged out. So that's why that's the power of counseling. That's the power of counseling. When I like to talk to my students, oftentimes they're just like, I really sigh because when you don't go through this experience, when you don't walk through with me, you cannot really understand, what counseling really means, And so this is what I have gone through to bring out all those interesting details, to enrich the essay. Up to this point, she has written a lot of interesting details already. Very good, but not good enough to me because of the structure. I disapproved, So let me move on to the next paragraph. Though my parents still harbor unease for their absences throughout my growth, I only feel immense gratitude for their self-sacrifice. I'm grateful that my circumstances have taught me to be a self-explorer through courage and resilience. I apply the same mindset to all pursuits in my life, from business and tennis to computer science. These things, like in the wrapping up stage, I told her, you probably need to expand more to the broader picture of you. That's why she wrote these things. In the original version, no, none of these things happened, okay? I applied the same mindset to all pursuits in my life, from business and tennis to computer science. As the bridges grow from literal to abstract, I continue to remember the driving steps of a grandmother. My grandmother and my parents crossed their bridges to give me a better life. Now, crossing my bridges, I have found intellectual fulfillment, satiated my curiosity, and created my own solace and happiness through self-led discovery. Okay, yeah, the essay is done. Guess what? This essay contains 801 words. Way too many, okay? You have only 650 words to work with. So that's why this is not going to work out anyway, even though ideas are already very solid. So that's why I helped her revise one more version and then one more version, which is the last version. This is the last version. Here we go. 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, my parents worked. The clock ticked slowly. 14 hours, 840 minutes, 50,400 seconds of boredom to feel at home. Alice in Wonderland stared at me from across the room, invitingly. Okay, okay, I'll read you. So the journey down the rabbit hole began. My mind ran unfettered, filling the frequent silence at home by sounding out words from books and teaching myself English. America was worlds apart from the Chinese village without electricity that my grandmother had raised me in until age 5, as my parents worked in restaurants in the States to provide me a better future. In the classroom, I examined every shelf as I navigated social mores through books. Stacks of my original stories soon filled drawers in my new home, overflowing with fanciful creation as I became enthralled by language and writing. The rabbit hole then led into music and art. I devoured symphonies and portraits as if they were candies, replete and vivacious, despite my family's financial obstacles. Throughout middle school and high school, you probably noticed in the last version, the student spent so much time to talk about things that happened before high school. Even though she mentioned like a youth symphony orchestra, oftentimes I had no way to know which things she did in high school, which things she did before high school. Because if you talk a lot of things before high school, chances are your admission officers will understand that, oh man, this student didn't achieve much in high school. And that's a really bad impression you put on the admission officers. So that's why I said, no, you cannot do that. You have to state clearly what you have done have achieved in high school. That's why in the revised version, she did very clearly, to correct that problem. Okay, so let me just continue. So here she has stated very clearly what happened throughout the middle school and high school. School music teachers who heard my violin performances fondly asked who my private tutor was. They were surprised when I told them I had none. I knew what was realistic for my family. Instead, I followed my intuition. So as you can tell, for the first several paragraphs, the major facts are still there. However, the structure has been much shrunk to be concise. As a child, let me continue, I ravaged the school music store rooms and their plethora of instruments. While transcribing songs on an old recorder, I hardly noticed my newly garnered notoriety as the nosy first grader. My mind churned with the discovery. Why do I create the same sound both when holding down 2 fingers and when holding down 3 but skipping a hole? Unaware, I uncovered the workings of standing waves in open pipes. I was fascinated with music and proceeded to learn piano at home on a notebook with the keys drawn in. In school, I finally dabbled with the violin and a real piano. Fingers fluttering restlessly, I figured out finger positions, harmonics, double stops, articulations, and tricky rhythms. I interpret the music in my unique way, telling narratives of the transient elation and the temptations of poor Una Carbiza and of the ambivalent trance-like state of reverie. Yeah, how do you like this writing? This is just unbelievably fascinating to the admission officers. Okay, and then apart from music, let's move on. In the art room, I navigated the stacks of construction paper, amalgamating materials in unimagined forms for unprecedented uses. I unraveled the techniques of watercolor, oil pastels, and acrylic paint. A self-taught artist, I discovered that I could use my brush to capture a scene with all its vitality and embody the euphoria or tribulations of a fleeting moment. At 7, I carved magnificent sculptures from the wax packaging of my classmates' Baby Bell cheese snack. Students collected and traded my artwork. My art then became commissioned in high school. In the corner of my parents' restaurant, I spent my days teaching myself to draw based on the Japanese wood block prints on the walls. I stood by the door, handing out to beaming customers their portraits. This detail I dug out from her. It's just so vivid. You can even see, what she was doing. Wow, this is just like marvelous. In a fleeting moment, years have passed. As I probe through the winding tunnels of this journey, I have grown intellectually. I won essay contests regionally and nationally. I co-founded a string quartet in the 6th grade and later played the first violin in a selective youth orchestra, developing an undaunted passion and a steadfast curiosity. Standing in gallery houses as a featured artist, I felt profoundly empowered and humbled. Everyone, let me tell you something here, okay? In the last version, I said, take a look. You self-studied music. You self-studied art, okay? Who knows? Your learning was good. Show me something. Your learning was good, right? Everything, it doesn't matter if you have still self-studied, if you have studied something, if you studied badly, so it's possible. And she said, no, I did achieve a lot in my art and in my music. Really? That's why she wrote this paragraph. Remember, she moved the fact about winning essay contests from early paragraph to this paragraph now. So all this whole paragraph is all about achievements based on my self-learning, because my family couldn't afford me to take such classes. So, oh man, this is almost like a spilling my tears out of my eyes. This is just so good. I don't know what other words I can use, to show my appreciation for what this girl has gone through. So last paragraph. Now coming out of this wonderland of sorts, I only feel immense gratitude for my parents' self-sacrifice. Though they still harbor unease for their absences throughout my growth, I'm grateful that my circumstances have taught me to be a self-explorer. That's the key. Yeah, that's the key word now. Through independent thinking and an unrelenting disposition to break down, analyze, and create. I have applied the same self-driven learning mentality to many pursuits in life, from tennis to business, computer programming, and artificial intelligence. In doing so, I have found intellectual fulfillment and created my own solace and happiness through self-led discovery. This time, the word bridge is gone, and also it's replaced by discovery. Yeah, and so how do you like it, folks? How do you like this essay? Yeah? This student started a way worse essay, and finally she came up with this version. And after she got accepted by Harvard University in early action, her recruiter even wrote her a 2-page note to show appreciation for her application to Harvard. No kidding, so rarely do students receive a private note, handwritten note from a college admission officer, and she did. This essay probably played a big role, in this whole process. Anyway, so yeah, I'm pretty much done, and so I hope that this little session is helpful to you. Okay, and if you want to get hold of me, here is my contact information.